Okay, if we are going to use completing the square to solve this equation, we need to get all of the terms with variables on one side and all of the terms without variables on the other side. So the first thing we need to do is we need to take this 6 right here and we need to get rid of it. So we're going to subtract 6 from both sides of the equation, giving me x squared plus 5x. And I'm going to leave a space here for what we're going to add, and then that's going to equal 6. So we're going to be adding something to both sides of the equation, or subtracting something from both sides, to make this a perfect square. Now let's go ahead and set up our box and use our box to factor it. Or rather, use our box to figure out what we need to make that perfect square. And while we're at it, to create what the factored form of that perfect square is. So we've got our x squared here, and we need to take this 5x, and we need to break that exactly in half. Doing that's going to give us a fraction, 5 over 2x, and here also 5 over 2x. So now, we've got x and x, 5 over 2, and 5 over 2. When we multiply 5 over 2 times 5 over 2, we multiply across the top, multiply across the bottom, and we're going to get 25 over 4. Okay, so we add that to both sides, plus 25 over 4 here, and plus 25 over 4 here. Okay. No problem on the left side, we can leave that as a fraction. On the right side, we're going to have to figure out a way to combine what are actually like terms. So over here we've got x squared plus 5x plus 25 over 4 equals. Now on this side of the equation, this is 6 over 1, right? We're going to have to multiply that top and bottom by 4 to get a common denominator. So when we do that, we're going to end up with negative 24 over 4 plus 25 over 4. So now our equation is, and I'm going to go ahead and put this into the factored form. So we have x plus 5 over 2 squared. I get that by looking back at my box. And then on this side of the equation, I've got a positive 25 force, a negative 24 force, and that's going to give me 1/4. Okay. So now, I'm ready to take the square root of both sides. And again, do not forget that it is plus or minus the square root on this side with no variables. Okay, so over here I now have x plus 5 over 2, and that equals plus or minus, and the square root of 1/4, we find the square root of the top, square root of the bottom of the fraction. Square root of 1 is 1, square root of 4 is 2, so I have plus or minus 1/2. Okay, now we get to break it apart into two separate equations. One of them is x plus 5 over 2 equals 1/2, and the other one, x plus 5 over 2 equals negative 1/2. Okay, so we're going to subtract 5 over 2 from both sides. And when I do that, I will get x equals, and 1 minus 5, of course, gives me negative 4, so negative 4 over 2, which I can reduce to negative 2. Okay. Let's take a look at this side now. Again, I'm going to subtract 5 over 2 from both sides. And that gives me x equals, and in this case, the directions are the same. So 1 plus 5 is 6, so I have a negative 6 over 2, which reduces to negative 3. So now, move this all the way down. Okay, extend the page. So now x equals negative, sorry, I should write it in its reduced form. X equals negative 2 and negative 3.